Hi, how are you?
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Basement Boys FIFA 22 Career Mode. For those of you new to the series, first of all, welcome. And if you hadn't had the chance to catch up on episode 1, you can do so by clicking that link above. But as a refresher, we'll be doing a season per episode where I'll show you guys the highlights from our key games, new transfers, stats, and everything else you'll need to help participate in our journey to European glory. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the action. With the European qualification set as the team's league target, Mr. Basement was looking to get business done early and often. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is the first to sign on the dotted line, agreeing to a 3-year extension at £70,000 per week following the activation of his loan clause from Liverpool. The manager then turned his attention to fan favourite Wilfried Zaha and longtime servant Joel Ward, as both veterans penned their futures at Selhurst Park, signing 2-year and 1-year contract extensions respectively. With contracts out of the way, it was time for renovations, and the first player out the door was Jairo Riedeveld, who agreed to move to Wolfsburg for £10.5 million. Will Hughes was soon to follow suit, as he departs for Aston Villa to the tune of £12 million. And now with room in the midfield, it was time to inject some younger talent into the squad. 22-year-old Czech Decore signed from Lens for the £12 million we secured from the Will Hughes departure, and agreed to a 5-year deal worth £32,500 per week. The next player on the docket was a loan-to-buy move, this time for Chelsea youngster Levi Colwill. The manager was looking for long-term options for the position, knowing that some of the squad is aging at the back line. With early transfer business out of the way, it was time to shift focus to the home opener against Manchester United. The manager opted to stick with his trusted 4-4-1-1 formation from last season, looking to get the most out of his frontmen Wilfried Zaha and S1E2 in the early going. And the game would start brightly for the pair, as S1E2 mashed the inside of the post in the opening 10 minutes, but the half was largely boring, and the only other chance came in the 37th minute when Wilfried Zaha forced David De Gea into a save at his near post. Palace continued to test the veteran goalkeeper into the second half, as Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's shot through traffic was parried away by De Gea once more. And the performance from the United stopper seemed to deflate the Palace players, and that allowed the Red Devils to storm into action. The star man Cristiano Ronaldo tested the Eagles' net from range, and Jadon Sancho followed up with an effort inside the Palace box. But the pressure soon became too much to handle, when in the 63rd minute, Declan Rice weaved his way past Joachim Andersen and rifled home the game's opening goal. 20 minutes later, a sloppy clearance allowed the United midfield to find Ronaldo, who floated his effort from the edge of the box past Vicente Guaita, doubling the away advantage. Jean-Philippe Mateta would find himself one-on-one with David De Gea late in the game, but had his chance denied by the head of the Spanish keeper, who preserves his clean sheet with a man-of-the-match performance. And the 2-0 defeat seems to have left the Eagles with more questions than answers heading into the final few weeks of the transfer window. Following the disappointing home loss, the manager turned his attention back to the transfer market, making 2 more acquisitions that he hopes will give the team more depth and also some more consistency. Josh Brownhill joins up first, following a £13.6 million move from Burnley. The veteran midfielder signs on for 4 years and £50,000 per week wages, a move that undoubtedly gives the boys greater coverage in a vital area of the pitch. Next on the list was striker, and with only 19-year-old Brad Young as the lone option behind Jean-Philippe Mateta, more competition was needed. In steps Leeds forward Patrick Bamford. The front man snapped up for around £16 million, signs a 4-year deal worth £46,000 per week in wages. So, with the starting 11 and bench spots filled in, youth and depth were required to keep the starters fresh throughout the year. 17-year-old diamond in the rough Iago Bernal was bought in on a free transfer for £1,500 per week over the next 5 years, and young goalkeeper Carl Rushworth was brought in to be the understudy to retiring Vicente Guaita and aging Remy Matthews. But with that, the transfer dealings were done, and the team looked set to compete in what was sure to be a long season ahead. Looking to give the home fans something to smile about, the boys take aim at visitors Chelsea in their next fixture, and a win would do wonders for confidence in South London. The team gets off to a hot start, and with only 3 minutes gone in the game, Bertrand Traore whips a first-time ball into the Chelsea 6-yard box, and Jean-Philippe Mateta is on hand to smash home the volley, giving the home support exactly what they needed, an early 1-0 lead. But the euphoria would only last a half hour before Hakim Ziyech and Timo Werner combined to get Chelsea back on level terms. and although there would be no swimming, our English midfield and French forwards would combine better than the English Channel when just seconds before the halftime whistle, Conor Gallagher lifted a ball in behind for S1E2 to run onto, before squaring across for a Jean-Philippe Mateta tap-in, his 5th goal in the last 5 league games. But Hakim Ziyech would do everything in his power to keep Palace down for the rest of the game. His equalizer here in the 58th minute quieted down the normally raucous home support and seemed to spell certain disaster for the boys. And with tensions mounting, it was another ball through the English Channel that provided new life to the South London faithful. Jean-Philippe Mateta finishes off his hat-trick after another perfectly weighted ball from Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain leaves him with an easy side-foot finish to retake the lead. And with Chelsea reeling and looking for answers, Palace's French flair kicked it up one more gear, as Edouard slipped another ball through to Jean-Philippe Mateta, who dispatched the ball beyond Edouard Mendy to increase the lead to 4-2. New boy Czech Decore would also earn himself a spot on the scoresheet, picking up a Jean-Philippe Mateta layoff inside the box and rifling home to put the final nail in the coffin. A fantastic 5-2 home win sent everyone home happy and waiting for what the next 32 games had in store. For a hard-fought 4-4 draw against Liverpool, the boys took a short trip across Stanley Park to visit Everton, hoping for an easier time out. But the fragility of our defensive unit reared its ugly head after the opening half an hour of play. A miscommunication between goalkeeper and defensive line left Richarlison with an empty net, and the Brazilian made no mistake in scoring the gift-wrapped opportunity, clucking away with his teammates in celebration. And moments later, an awful error from Vicente Guaita allows a slow-rolling shot from Anthony Martial to dribble into the back of the net, and this proved a stark reminder that the aging Spaniard was probably not meant for rainy days in Liverpool. And just as one side celebrated their French forwards' powerful introduction, it would be our own French forwards that revived our hopes of a revolution, as Jean-Philippe Mateta and S1E2 combined to halve the deficit heading into the break. And the two Frenchmen would combine again on the other side of halftime, helping to give Palace new life with just under an hour played. But Everton were quick to squash the comeback before it started to gain momentum. Following a poor defensive overload, a wide-open Mario Gaspar smashed the woodwork from just inside the 18, with the rebound falling to Andros Townsend, who volleys home to put the Toffees back in the driver's seat. And with the rebellion finally put back in their place, Anthony Martial and Dele Alli were Palace's final executioners, the pair effectively pulling the guillotine down on a broken Palace squad. The final score read 5-2, but the league table painted a much worse picture for the boys. With a quarter of the season now gone, Palace finds itself in an all-too-familiar place, and with only 2 wins in their opening 10 games, the team sits in 14th, 2 points off the relegation zone. And while the offense is humming, averaging 2 goals a game, the defense is sputtering, having conceded a league-high 26 goals. And unless something changes quickly, qualification for the Europa League is certainly in question. After a few more up-and-down results for Mr. Basement and his crew, a snowy encounter at home to Southampton was the scene for our next fixture. Andre Horta threw the first snowball in the fight, firing a skipping volley towards Vicente Guaita's net. And despite the Spaniard feeling the heat in previous games, this fingertip save reminded everyone he still had some ice left in those veins. And that save was all the spark that Bertrand Traoré needed to produce the game's opening goal, as the burner from Burkina Faso made a darting run towards the edge of the area and found enough space to lash a powerful shot into the top corner of the net. And Vicente Guaita was forced to sit through flurries of snow and a flurry of shots from the Saints, preserving his clean sheet almost as a one-man show. The frail defensive unit was thankful that he was on his A-game this day. And with the team still holding on to a 1-0 lead after the break, the eventual winner would come when a beautiful cross from Eberechi Eze resulted in this spectacular goal from Jean-Philippe Mateta. The Frenchman's rendition of Cirque du Soleil would double the advantage for the Eagles and blow the roof off of Selhurst Park. Palace would hang on despite a 76th-minute goal from El Yanouzi, and all looked happy and bright in the Palace dressing room heading into the halfway point of the season. Following a string of positive results, the boys found themselves up in 7th, just 2 points off the coveted Europa League places. And the manager displayed his confidence once again in front of the press, backing his players who've come so far to get to this point in the long campaign. But with the winter window open, the manager seemed keen to make some tweaks to the squad, and in the end there were only 2 moves made during the winter window. The first was a shock departure. Young French phenom Michael Olise was moved on to Portuguese giants Benfica for £25 million. The winger failed to impress in 1.5 seasons under the manager, and it seemed too much money for the club to pass up. But the next purchase was puzzling. Using only $10 million from the sale of Michael Elise, the manager set his sights on American Tim Weah from Lille. He's able to negotiate a favorable 5-year deal, and felt that Weah's skill set and physicality matched his style of play better than Elise's finesse. With the winter window now behind them, the boys geared up for an FA Cup round of 16 clash against London rivals Tottenham. A win here would see them advance to the quarterfinals, bettering their results from last season's competition. But 20 minutes in, and Palace's hopes of advancing took a hit. Ilkay Gundogan surged into the box and got a favorable bounce following a save from Vicente Guaita, and was able to turn into a practically wide-open net for the early 1-0 lead. An ugly goal to concede for the home side, but the belief never waned, and with Spurs still leading after the break, Palace finally made their way to the party. Conor Gallagher was first to arrive, hurling his 51st minute effort beyond Lloris, only to be denied by the bouncer at the crossbar. Bertrand Traore was the next to test his luck, but couldn't squeeze his near-post effort past an alert Lloris, and Cheikh Doucouré had a bite of the cherry from the ensuing corner, but he sliced his shot well wide of the mark. The door then flew open in the 68th minute when Wilfried Zaha raced into the Spurs penalty area and slid a ball across to Jean-Philippe Mateta, whose equalizer sent the game into extra time. The forward wheeled off in celebration, much to the dismay of Antonio Conte and Spurs. In extra time, Spurs would land the next blow. Ilkay Gundogan's scintillating pass caused chaos amongst the Palace back line, allowing Luka Jovic to sneak into the box, handing Spurs the late advantage. But the boys were determined to fight till the end, and fight they did, as Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain helped to spring a brilliant counter-attacking move, culminating with a Brad Young tapping at the far post. The cup run seemed back on, and the stadium was buzzing. It was all down to spot kicks from here, and the two sides would go back and forth through 4 rounds, when up stepped Brad Young, who has developed quite a history with this competition. The youngster's shot is narrowly miscalculated, and cannons off the post. Brian Gill would then send Vicente Guaita the wrong way, and that put an end to this year's FA Cup bid. The Eagles hit some up-and-down form following the FA Cup exit, and the team finds themselves with destiny in its own hands. With just 2 games remaining against Everton and Arsenal, the dream of European nights at Selhurst Park remained in flux. With the image of their previous 5-2 defeat ingrained in their heads, Palace welcomed Everton to Selhurst Park, looking for atonement in the form of 3 points. The action picks up in the 6th minute, when Wilfried Zaha went on a mazy run into the box, and beat his man with some skill before rolling the opening goal into the back of the net. The boys were in dreamland, but not for long. Everton's troublesome pairing of Lewis Muriel and Mauro Icardi caused just enough problems for Davidovic and Anderson at the back, and the Argentine powered his way into the box before scoring a 27th minute equalizer. It was deja vu all over again for the boys. But the Eagles were determined not to have a repeat of the season's earlier result, and mounted solid pressure throughout the opening 45 minutes, calling the Everton goalkeeper into action several times throughout. And their hard work paid off in attack just minutes before the halftime whistle, when new boy Tim Weah spotted Jean-Philippe Mateta inside the Everton area, and the American's cross was met by the powerful boot from the Frenchman. It seemed once more that a French and American partnership would help to conquer an English enemy. Wilfried Zaha would then grab his second goal of the game in the 51st minute. The tricky forward broke in behind the Everton defensive line and was in through on goal before scoring to give the Eagles a 2-goal advantage. And after conceding sloppily to Alex Campbell to give Everton a lifeline into the game, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain would grab himself a goal. The powerful, marauding midfielder made an energetic run into the box from deep and rocketed a shot at the near post. That goal restored the 2-goal cushion and secured a vital 3 points in the quest for European competition. Heading into the final game of the season, the tension in the Emirates was palpable. Palace needed a win to ensure they'd have a place in next season's Europa League, and Arsenal needed only a point to ward off the Fighting Eagles. But Palace would draw first blood in the opening few minutes after Odsonne-Édouard has his shot parried off the line. Jean-Philippe Mateta is on hand to volley home his 20th goal of the campaign, giving the Eagles an early 1-0 lead. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end, and that was certainly the case for Ox. His uncharacteristically aggressive slide challenge draws the ire of the official, who reaches into his back pocket and pulls out a red card, sending one half of our engine room for an early shower. Arsenal would make the most of the man advantage shortly thereafter. A few bad bounces inside our own penalty box allowed for Emile Smith-Rowe to latch onto a cutback, guiding the equalizer beyond Vicente Guaita heading into the 25th minute. But the boys were determined not to go down without a fight, and Eberichieze provided the spark that we needed. Dropping into the midfield following the red card, he settled in quite quickly, and his surging run in the 30th minute was rewarded with a goal that restored the hopes of all Palace supporters. Qualification into Europe was within reach if they could just hold on. And heading into the second half, Palace continued to look a threat. S1E2 nearly doubled the advantage at a crucial point in the game, but his effort was turned aside by Bernd Leno. This allowed momentum to swing in Arsenal's favor as they tested our back line often throughout the second half. But the retiring Vicente Guaita was up to the task and did everything he could to force his side over the finish line in his swan song campaign. And just as the win seemed assured for Palace and passports were being prepped at home, Arsenal launched one final counterattack in the last minute of added time. A missed challenge by Nathaniel Klein allows Sofiane Diop to break a poor line and sneak in unopposed for a dramatic late equalizer. As the players sunk to their knees, the reality of the final whistle sealed their fate. In his last post-game press conference of the season, the manager attempted to heap praise on his players, who fought valiantly over a 38-game season, but came up just 1 point shy of European glory in the end. There are some key takeaways heading into next season. A defensive overhaul could be in the works, stronger depth in midfield seems a necessity, and goals from non-strikers is a must if they're to compete with the best moving forward. After the disappointment wore off, the players gathered for end-of-season awards. Vicente Guaita ended as this year's Ironman with 39 appearances, and the retiring 36-year-old keeper leaves behind a major hole between the sticks heading into next season. Jean-Philippe Mateta was the team's Golden Boot winner. His 20 goals in the league helped propel the team to achieve their 7th-place finish. S1E2 was once again the team leader in assists, with 13 in all competitions, 12 of those came in the Premier League. This year's signing of the season goes to Patrick Bamford, and although he only featured as our second-choice striker for much of the season, his 11 league goals came at crucial times during the campaign. And this year's Young Player of the Season goes to Will Welsh. He's the first product from our youth academy, and played well across all competitions to deputy the aging Nathaniel Klein and Joel Ward. And with that, the season is officially over. Thank you all for taking this journey with me here in episode 2. We'll be starting production on episode 3 very soon, so leave a comment down below with transfer ideas for Mr. Basement and the boys, and as always, subscribe for more as the quest for European glory rages on.